So the third thing that we look at, and really probably the biggest investment opportunity and probably the most critical opportunity for us globally to contend with, is capturing fossil fuel emissions. Now the reason for that is, simply put here and on the next slide, which is that in terms of energy equivalent costs, oil and gas are far more expensive than coal. And in terms of available or known or proven reserves, there's a lot more coal out there, if you will, than gas or oil. The other thing about coal is it's on site. It's where where so much of industry is settled around the globe. So there are very large and sizable reserves and seams of coal in the U.S. and China and India and Europe, et cetera. So it is available. So it's cheap, it's plentiful, and it's basically where we need it. But the signal problem with coal, of course, is the high carbon emission associated with burning coal as a fossil fuel. And as you can see, relative to oil, natural gas, and of course other renewables, coal is the culprit. Okay. So going forward, there are a few opportunities, I guess, that we have. One is to retrofit existing facilities to capture CO2 emissions, and that can be done. That is to say, once you've burned the coal, is to take the CO2 out of the emissions, and that can be done by adding, apparently, by chilled ammonia to the flue emissions, or by blowing pure oxygen rather than air into flue gas. And these are known technologies, and the benefit of these is that it's retrofitting existing plants, but it's a relatively high cost of carbon capture. The other is to build new plants using cleaner technologies, where basically the coal is gasified, and the so the coal, you extract burnable gas from the natural methane gas from the coal, and you extract the CO2. In either case, you're left with and this is effectively a map, if you will, of the incremental spend, which you can see has a long tail going out over the next couple of decades, so it's sizable. And we think that coal is going to continue to anchor the power fleet, as we say, going forward. As you can see, approximately coal-powered plants over the next 25 years are going to grow about 60 or so percent, 60, 70% in terms of kilowatt output. But if we apply the known technologies, we can reduce the carbon output associated. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not on this slide. We can reduce the carbon outputs. We can have them. And this is very meaningful, and this is something that is being addressed now and that must be done. And so with the application of appropriate regulation going forward, this can be achieved. Now the issue with, and this, I don't want to get into the slide necessarily, just think of it this way. The issue with taking CO2 out of coal is that you still have CO2, and you've got to do something with it. CO2 is a gas. So effectively what we're saying here is that gas, it has got to be pumped, if you will, or stored, I should say. And there are three possible options. One are basically to pump it into depleted coal mines or oil facilities which have been depleted, and seal those. And the known and proven space to do that is about 80 years of peak capacity. So we have plenty of opportunity to do that, to effectively go back out to the North Sea or to coal mines in the UK or in the US, what have you, and just pump it back into the ground, seal it, and let it be. The other two options are to pump it into saline aquifers in the substrata, which effectively gives you kind of bubbly salt water, which is of no use to anyone, but it's effectively safe. And the third is effectively to pump it into the deep sea, where the pressure of seawater would liquefy the CO2. But that's environmentally challenging because the addition of CO2 into seawater tends to raise the acidity of water. And so I think environmentally that's probably a no-go. So we think that we're more likely to see the piping of gasified CO2 into disused caverns that were once coal mines or oil fields. And the incremental spend coming through from pipelines and this expenditure on that is considerable. So this is just a picture overall of where we see across coal, nuclear, renewables, the incremental spend over the next few years. This is a multi-trillion-dollar project over the next 20 years, probably an additional spend of about $5 trillion. So this is going to flow down across a wide variety of industries in a very meaningful way. I want to just cover one last slide, if I may, because this gets into something that I think is interesting and perhaps very interesting to you as public, if you're in the public domain, something that is about improving energy efficiency. It's a small example, but I think it also says meaningfully the best way to approach some of these things is just by being a little bit smarter and applying kind of known technologies. Now this is what we call the California Traffic Light Case Study. And a few years back, the state of California mandated that they were going to change the lights in the state's traffic light, the light bulbs, from filament bulbs to LED light sources, which are far more energy efficient. And the point of this is that in terms of the cost save, as you can see, measured in CO2 reduction equivalent, is the same as building a wind farm. So just by changing a bunch of light bulbs. The time it took to do that was 15 months as opposed to, say, a couple of years to build a wind farm. So it was 3 times as fast, so the impact was virtually immediate. And the cost was a quarter of the cost of building the wind farm. So it's not that we shouldn't be building wind farms, but the point is we can all do things more effective. We can be more efficient if we act smart, if we act fast, and and get meaningful outputs. So I think I'll end there because I think my time is probably taken up. And I look forward, if there's an opportunity, perhaps later in the day over lunch or something, if there are further questions. Thank you very much.